We now have this final rule. Think about where we are now and how requests for accommodations are being responded to. One would think that with the signing of the ADA-AA and the explicit language expressed in the final rule, dyslexic students who are bright, work extremely hard, and earn grades that permit hopes of attending college or graduate, medical, business, or law school would have minimal difficulties obtaining accommodations on high-stakes exams. Unfortunately, this has not always been the case. Some deserving dyslexic individuals have continued to find it extremely difficult to obtain accommodations, even those who were diagnosed early on in school and have received accommodations throughout their school careers. Some hardworking young men and women applying for accommodations to a range of testing agencies, including the SAT, LSAT, MCAT, and U.S. Medical Licensing Exam, USMLE, and medical certification boards still face a barrage of requests for more and more information, including difficult-to-obtain records, such as demanding the elementary school records of a 35-year-old applicant. Far too often, the litany of requests results in delay after delay and often expensive retesting for a lifelong disability. It is now known that the prevalence of dyslexia is about 20%, 1 in 5. Given these data, what do you think is the prevalence of college students applying for accommodations? The testing agencies have seemed to be functioning as a law unto themselves. Some students have received accommodations. However, less than 2% of college students, that is, less than 2% of college students were applying for accommodations, in contrast to the known 20% who are dyslexic. The assumption is that many dyslexic students become discouraged and do not apply for accommodations. Many who did apply found that the agencies seemed to flout the ADA and denied their accommodations. Despite the enactment of the ADA-AA specifically calling for the determination of who is substantially limited to be broadly interpreted, the testing agencies appear not to be listening. These testing entities, wielding extraordinary power, appear not to be answerable to any authority, to have no accountability, and rather seem to function without any external oversight or restraints. There was and continues to be concern, too, over the potential bias of the external reviewers who were recruited and paid by the testing agencies and thus were not independent. Still, another concern, if an applicant, following a denial of accommodations, requests a second review, the new reviewer may be biased by previous reviews provided by the testing agencies. Perhaps most pernicious in the denial letters, testing agencies have noted that our accommodations are not intended for bright students coming from elite schools, students who the testing companies claim just want to increase their scores. The testing agencies appear to adhere to the myth that applicants who request accommodations are trying to game the system, a belief not supported by the evidence. These agencies' actions and statements reflect an ignorance not only of science, but also of the law, as expressed in the final rule. The agencies often misquote facts and seem to rely instead on personal biases rather than on factual evidence. Agency reviewers who have never examined or even seen the applicant second-guess the recommendations of the professional who evaluated that young man or woman. An individual who may have more experience and knowledge and who certainly has a better sense of the applicant gained from spending many hours with him or her. Far too often, in their denial letters to the applicant who requested accommodations, the agencies often appear to be misquoting and misapplying the law. Most upsetting of all, the agencies seem to be looking for almost any reason or excuse to deny an applicant the requested accommodation. The result, society was losing valuable human resources and individuals' lives were upended. Denied accommodation, facing endless delays, or failing unaccommodated tests, applicants would have to drastically lower their ambitions. A brilliant young woman, Lisa, who had been identified as dyslexic in primary school, and in whom a recent evaluation indicated superior intelligence and dyslexia, had acquired an excellent academic record at a rigorous college with accommodations, and was encouraged by her admiring instructors to apply to law school. She applied for accommodations and was rejected even after an appeal. Frustrated and unsure of how long she would have to keep applying for accommodations and of the outcome, Lisa gave up her dream of becoming an attorney. Her mother aptly commented, quote, "If my daughter decides she no longer wants to attend law school, that's her prerogative. However, the decision should not be made for her by the Law School Admissions Council." If the final rule had been published earlier, it would likely have provided Lisa with the backing of the Department of Justice. In fact, in the final rule, the DOJ specifically takes on many of the arguments that testing agencies such as LSAC and USMLE have used in the past.